Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are speaking with Ward 2 Councillor Jennifer Wyness to discuss some important decisions that directly affect Calgary residents. Councillor Jennifer, thank you for joining us. Ward 2 residents have been paying close attention to recent council votes, particularly around the city budget and zoning policies. This interview is an opportunity for residents to better understand your positions, your reasoning, and how you see your role in representing what to moving forward. So, thank you very much to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, okay. So, actually, one question is about the question on no vote on the budget motion. You voted no on the recent city budget motion. Can you explain what specific aspect of the budget you disagree with?
Foundationally, we're draining our savings account to delay a tax increase. When you look
Yes.
at council, we were pulling all this money from reserves. And I don't think everyone was really aware that we have a long list of capital projects that are getting, I would say, crushed by inflation on these projects. And so when we get our next update on our reserve pile, we will see we're already over $1 billion on this. Instead of using the reserves to complete the projects already in progress,
Yes.
we continue to spend off of the reserves while not actually completing the projects that are in the queue to actually move forward. And that foundationally, it's not smart to pull all of our reserves to reduce the tax increase while continuing to spend. There was no fiscal discipline on this council going into this budget, and it was a mid-cycle adjustment where we continued to spend. And I think that's a dangerous policy for a council, given the impacts a lot of the decisions will have on the next 4-year budget.
Yes. Actually, many residents are concerned about raising taxes and affordability. This was the main issue in last budget. Last city of Calgary election, people are concerned more about the ever raising the taxes 7.5% average every year. How did those concerns factor in your decision to oppose the budget?
Again, it ties into we're not addressing the long-term consequence for Calgarians. There were
Yes.
amendments that were a part of the package, such as more money, and yes, safety is a problem, but we continue to expand hiring transit safety officers when the city and the last council spent over $100 million on protecting transit. And without this new council seeing the impacts of over $100 million investment in transit safety, they just doubled down. And so if Calgarians are still saying that that investment has not made them feel safe, we need to truly assess what will have an impact on transit safety for Calgarians, not just continue to write blank checks. There's another one where we have handcuffed the next council with a non-residential to residential tax shift of 0.25% for the next 8 years. The last council was constantly told, do not pass budget decisions that handcuff future councils. So
Yes.
this council passed something that the last council would have been told you do not do. And so it is an issue to see a continued shift again onto residential properties and homeowners and families for commercial assets. I think that's something that this council really needs to start paying attention to. It's not about fixing the problems that a lot of us campaigned on. And I think this council will see that when we do our next 4-year. It's getting harder and harder for councils to bury the tax increases they are giving. It's called incremental budgeting, where you hire employees off of one-time funding. But if you hire people, that is an operational expense that you will be paying year after year, because you're not going to hire someone for 1 year and then fire everybody a year later. That was even an answer administration gave when it came to transit safety, because it was one-time funding where we said we were going to hire employees, but when the money ran out, the employees that are coming in to do transit safety will be redispersed in the organization. Well, that's a 2-point hit where, okay, well, if we don't fund them as to be transit safety officers, where are they going to be put in the organization, and what impacts will that have when the purpose of hiring them was to make transit safer? That is not a good budget plan. That is not solving problems for Calgarians, and it has unintended consequences that this council did not try to weigh and measure at the time we were doing a mid-cycle adjustment.
Yeah, that's very good. You explain it very well. My next question is, did you feel the budget lacked fiscal discipline, transparency, or accountability? So, what is missing in the budget? And what message were you intent to send to the council and the Calgarian by voting against the budget? You and I think three councillors total voted against the budget. And budget is passed already with your concern, which is not addressed. So, what long-term impact did you fear it would have on Ward 2 residents and Calgary City? What do you think?
The long-term impacts is this budget leads to more tax increases later on.
Yes.
This budget did not actually, councillors, for example, there's $40 million going into the downtown strategy for completion bonuses for non-residential office conversions to housing. However, this is not going to get the outcomes of affordable housing for Calgarians. This program is not getting a good return on investment for Calgarians. It's essentially a completion bonus for people who own $1 billion asset, and is not what Calgarians are asking for. That money should go to actual communal benefit, so park improvements, playground improvements, rather than giving the money to someone who already owns an office building, a $10 million bonus. The money cannot actually be accessed for financing for these projects, and it stays with the city until the project is complete. It's not getting that return on investment which Calgarians are asking for, and the council did not look at it. There were councillors who acknowledged that this program is not actually beneficial for the taxpayer or for Calgarians, but still continued to keep it in the budget. That doesn't show transparency to Calgarians. It shows that they acknowledge that it's not a good program and it shouldn't continue to be funded. But they just didn't want to look at it. Was an ask by administration in the budget. It was not council directed that they got this money. And it is not looking at, again, the hundreds of millions of dollars already invested in the downtown core to still end up at a consistent vacancy rate, roughly around 30%. So when you've invested, again, another $100 million to stay the same, I think the taxpayer does not appreciate those programs when they want to make sure that their snow is cleared, that pavement and potholes are filled, that we are replacing playground equipment with the same standard or better, so that the community can gather and can benefit from where their tax dollars are going. This, again, is just going more into private equity and not actually to the benefit of our city. Yes, some may say that it creates housing, but it doesn't, because the federal government, CMHC financing, is part of what is enticing this development. So it's a program that is now being taken over responsibility by the federal government, which allows municipalities to back out and start funding other programs that will be complementary to solving the problem we're sending out to solve.
Yeah, that's good. You explained very well it. So now budget already passed. So what impact you think? Already you discussed about it.
Yeah.
So my next question about blanket rezoning. This was the very major issue in last city of Calgary election. Last time you know that Jyoti Gundak forcefully implemented. He was decided already. He need to pass this resolution, and everything he was doing is just for show off, calling few people to talk about it. They all were against it, but still they passed the motion. But you actually voted yes for blanket rezoning in last motion, but now is the major issue, and they have already started it again. But before this, they start again to call the public to talk about blanket rezoning to repeal it. But you have also actually brought an alternate to the blanket rezoning complete repelling motion. So would you please explain about it? Because we have not got any chance to know what is mean.
Okay, so when we look at the original blanket zoning, there's a lot of mixed misinformation about whether or not the federal government will remove our funding. Even if you look at the news articles, the mayor said before we voted on this that the federal government had agreed not to touch our funding from them if we repeal it. However, the federal government always remains on what contract we signed is what they will enforce on us. And so, having read the contract before my previous vote of voting yes, it
Yeah,
clearly
1 minute. Sorry to interrupt you, but now it's confirmed by city administrator that there is no federal funding is involved in the
oh,
blanket
there is.
rezoning.
There
And
is.
Jyoti Gundak was just only lying to the people for
No,
her decision.
it is. It is because there's the most recent one where the federal government says that they will hold us to the half funding agreement we signed, which in it
Yes,
it says inclusive zoning. So even when the previous mayor was there, she said no, our money wasn't contingent on it. Yet if you look at it, everything goes back to the contract that was signed, which
yes,
says yes, money is. So we might be out $100 million if we repeal this. Again, we keep getting mixed answers. Every time someone says yes, the money, or no, the money's not involved, then suddenly someone from the minister's office at the federal government says, well, actually, just wait a second, it potentially is. And so, but the thing is, Calgary has been very successful at exceeding housing compared to the rest of Canada. We've already overshot our target. But the thing is, when it comes to blanket zoning, for Ward 2, we have had zero development permits. Even there's a sheet going around that shows how many housing starts came off of blanket zoning, and it doesn't impact Ward 2,
yes,
which is why I also got those amendments passed foundationally, which increases the parking requirements to be
yes,
one parking spot per one unit. And that's why I supported it, because I also
yes,
know we got money out of it. So I worked on protecting our community. Now, when you look at our repeal, we're councils we'll see how it goes. We have to go through another public hearing. So I voted in favor of the repeal. Again, when you have zero impact on your community because we have greenfield development, you're like, okay, it's the inner city community, it wants change, so we'll do it. But ultimately, blanket zoning has not created the number of housing units that Calgary wanted. It's greenfield development that is creating the houses and putting roofs over Calgarians' heads right now. And so council has to look at, where do we want to fund our infrastructure? Should we be putting it where people are moving to and living, which would be greenfield, while allowing those in the inner city who don't want to see redevelopment? Maybe we just have to say, we're going to do a population change and funding goes to where higher density of people are residing or choosing to live, which will be interesting when we get our next census. So blanket zoning will be going to a public hearing again. So I look forward to Calgarians again coming in and providing their feedback on what they want to change. When it came to the notice of motion, I also put another amendment forward that is going to reduce the lot coverage that an RCG or redevelopment can happen. We're removing zero lot line development. This is what Calgarians have been saying. We're reducing the height to be in line with what the repeal would take back our single family housing height to. And so I tried to send a direction which will be advertised going into this, where Calgarians can look at these changes and come in and tell council whether they like them or not. We still need to make sure that we are counting secondary suites and density. So that may have to be another amendment that we add in. We're probably going to have to talk about parking requirements and bike storage again, but that is why we are having another citywide public hearing that will be advertised. And I look forward to Calgarians coming in and discussing the impacts, but we are going to be looking at too, that blanket zoning only affected certain neighborhoods. And it's how do we make sure we address that community's concern or those communities' concerns to make sure that redevelopment happens in a meaningful way that doesn't displace those that already live in the community.
Okay. So it's very good. But you also actually brought an alternate motion to replace the blanket rezoning. Is the parking requirement motion you approve, which is passed in last city council, is it valid only for Ward 2 or this all over the city?
It's all over the city. So it was based on age of community. So we had two parking tiers: the inner city, which is where the the community was already seeing a natural change of RCG applications. They were required to do 0.5 parking for each unit of housing, including secondary suites. And then outside of it, where we have newer communities, so I think it was like 1970s and up, they were required to have 1 unit of parking for both the main unit and the secondary suite, because those communities were not seeing the redevelopment. They were further out where transit wasn't as effective, where people were more car dependent. And you have to manage when you redevelop, you still need to park your cars. Like Calgary is a well-planned city that needs to think about our modes of transportation, which Calgarians are choosing. You don't sit in traffic the same way you would sit in traffic in Toronto or Vancouver. And so I don't think we should always use those other cities as the milestone of how successful Calgary is at planning and development, because we've made a made in Calgary solution that is why people are moving to our city. And we have to make sure that we keep that as the core value of how we grow and develop our city, because it's livable for families.
Okay. So is personal, like you can answer or you can avoid the answer. Will you vote yes or no to repel the blanket rezoning motion? Because the city will need 10 votes to repel it. That's what I read in the news by the councillor forecast. So will you vote yes or no?
So I can't say that right now because of the MGA. So a councillor has to be amenable to change, and we have to sit in and listen. So I can't actually answer that one until after I vote, because that's what I have to adhere to as a city councillor.
No, you have still not made your mind to vote yes or no in the. You will see what is already discussed. Everything is already very well experienced. Not only discussed, city experience. This was the major issue in the last election.
Yeah,
so and that's why I was asking.
That's why you saw the vote for. I voted yes for the repeal motion, and now I have to follow. Once you do public hearings, we can't disclose what we're going to do, because at that time we may make amendments and we say, well, maybe we'll change parking based on all the feedback Calgarians have given us during that public hearing. So what will happen will be a product of the end of the day. Well, maybe there'll be a full repeal, but then also when we repeal back, you don't want to necessarily go back to the old way, because the community did have concerns with how the original single family housing to RCG was being built into their community. So we have to really listen to everybody who comes in and speaks.
Yeah, you are right.
Make sure the policy is accurate to what they want.
What people are talking, but I am 100% sure they will talk against the blanket rezoning. Everyone is tired of this, that I have my single family home and they build a multi-story building next to my home. And they buy, like, for example, 800,000 home, and they build 4 units of 800,000. Builders are making money. They are not making for affordability or to make the low cost apartment. They are just making money out of it. That's why builders were around the Jyoti Gundag when before this decision was made. Some very quick question to you, because I know the time limit. So what do you think about the order? What last council gave order of 120 electric buses to bring here? And this experience failed all over Canada. In this Edmonton, they spent 60 million to buy electric buses. All buses are parked in their yard. And I think this company bankrupt or something happened. I am not fully remember. So they are not giving any support to them. Winnipeg and Regina in Saskatchewan, all over these buses are filled. So what do you think about these buses?
For the EVs, electric vehicle buses?
For electric buses.
So I actually already brought a motion to council to try and cancel the contract in the past term.
Yeah, that is very, very great.
Yeah, because it's not working. EV buses, like Regina, most recently, they had a presentation from their transit department showing that there is less mileage. They're braking. At the time I brought the notice of motion saying cancel the contract, we were seeing EV producers going bankrupt. And so no matter how much federal money went into this technology, it didn't matter. The tech doesn't work. We need to focus on compressed natural gas. Transit, if you really were to try and solve the problem, is about getting people out of their cars through the most effective transit system, which means your buses have to start, your buses have to show up on time, and they have to be able to drive the distance. The electric vehicle buses are not a product that necessarily work as well in cold climates. Look at the weather we're experiencing right now, minus 20, minus 30. Even our cars are struggling with that. So I tried to learn from other municipalities that were the lead on us. And unfortunately, because again, the federal government is sort of forcing municipalities down this way to purchase EVs, even though we have fewer and fewer suppliers of electric vehicle buses that can actually
Yes.
stay in business and provide. I tried to make sure we got ahead of the problem, but unfortunately, I lost that vote with the last council. And now you're kind of gone too far. So you have to transition away from procuring EV buses and go into buying compressed natural gas or diesel, and make sure we expand those bus barns over continuing to invest in electric vehicle. Because again, energy has to come from somewhere, whether you plug it in or fuel up at a gas station, you're still
Yeah, totally agree.
energy. Yeah.
So you are actually, I remember even the last time when this motion was actually in the city council, you talk against it. You
Yeah.
say we need reliable buses, not like they just stop somewhere. People, passenger are sitting inside. Now they say a rescue truck to bring it back, and everyone going to do something. They have time limit. They are not going to just sitting bus for nothing. So we need reliable. So you will bring the motion, or what your
I
plan
already
again?
got it. So now this council, we're kind of past the point of being able to cancel it without
Yeah.
wasting tax money. So we're kind of pot committed right now, and we have to take in this first batch. And then any future, I will constantly advocate for procurement of compressed natural gas buses, or you even got hydrogen fuel buses. That could be a cool tech to try. Having again worked with other municipalities, those experts spent more time discussing the alternative fuels outside of electric vehicle buses, that it really showcased to me as an elected representative that we need to choose and learn from other municipalities' challenges and get ahead of the problem. So I will continue to advocate to go away from electric vehicle buses in the climate, because we don't know how long or how many suppliers will be able to provide them for us, or what the delays will be in actually getting them.
Yeah, one thing, you are aware of their contract, how much they have to pay them as a fine to cancel the order of the 120 buses.
Yeah.
Any idea?
I can't disclose that, but I'm just looking forward to seeing if they actually provide them to us on time and on budget. But it's one of those things where we couldn't even find a procurement for the pilot project that was supposed to go forward before we actually got ahead, bought these bigger buses. And that was one of the arguments I made when I said, let's cancel this contract. You couldn't even find a supplier to provide the pilot buses, which shows that it's not necessarily the best technology out there right now for providing safe and effective transit for Calgarians.
Yeah, this is one question. What is your plan for Ward 2? What you are planning to do, and what you think that something is missing that you have to address these one issues? Any park issue, any road issue, any connectivity between the roads? So what is your actually future plan for the Ward 2?
So for Ward 2 right now, there's a big push for actually funding playground and playground replacement. If you look at our community, we have families that are going to playgrounds built near your house that are being torn out and replaced. Well, I need to get more funding into that program to be able to replace it with this similar type product. Right now, the city's plan is to, if you have a climbing equipment for your little kids to play with, they're bringing in not necessarily the same age appropriate play for toddlers to big kids. And we need to really look at that parks replacement playground program. I think we need to invest in recreation. If I look up in my newer communities, Sage Hill, Evanston, Nolan Hill, we need more parks, playground, and recreation facilities up there. We only have really the Melcor Y, and then you have Shane Holmes Y, which technically is in Ward 1. So we all have to travel quite far to get to our rec facilities, and I want to see more of those moved into our community. That's another focus. Roads, mobility, pothole filling, snow and ice removal is something we do a lot of advocacy on. I love it when the community emails my office with issues where we get to tackle and fight for change within the organization and make better policy off of what our residents are experiencing. So that is some of the many things that we're trying to work on. Pilot, like safe mobility around schools, down in through neighborhoods. We've done pilots for speed bumps and trying to get some more roundabouts worked in, because that's a natural, well, not really natural, but it's a mechanism of mobility and transit safety that are people driving in cars that can slow down without having to go over speed bumps. So we're just trying to make our entire neighborhood safer for the families that reside there.
Yeah, actually, roundabouts are very useful. So we can save fuel, not to stop completely. If
Yeah.
we see there is no vehicle, we can go across. But people need to know how to use roundabout.
Oh
People
yeah.
are very confused whether to enter roundabout, to stop or other. That's why we need also some education for the common people to understand how to use it.
Yeah.
But it's very useful. It's actually from UK
Yeah.
mostly there, but in where I came from, we are very used to use the roundabout.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah. So that's very good. Actually, I am very happy to talk to you. You are about your presence in the social media. I compare with other counselor. Any vote, they vote yes or no, they always come with explanation. So, but your presence is what I observe. Maybe I am no, wrong. One of your account last message from 2021. Other account,
you might be
other
looking at one of my old campaign accounts that I left up there, but we have the ward office Facebook page because you have to manage what's a campaign and what's your ward office, and so we're
yeah,
trying to bring clarity and communication to that. Right now, I think it's good for me as a veteran counselor to leave space for the new counselors to have their voice heard. I think when you have a lot of repeated messages, right, at least as new counselors are onboarding and the mayor's onboarding, filling that space is letting their voice get out. You have to pick and choose, and there's going to be lots of different issues where different counselors are going to have more media presence on an issue. And right now, I think as a returning counselor, my job is to let Calgarians see and the vision of the new counselors. We're coming off of a campaign where people are quite overwhelmed with what's going on politically. You have the federal government you're hearing a lot from, the provincial government, and now the new counselors. And so I will be having a greater voice as we go on, but right now it's leaving space for everybody else to have their voice heard.
yeah, yeah. So actually, I am very, very happy to talk to you, and all people will know about your views. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for taking the time to explain your actually votes and what you are going to do for the next. We actually appreciate your willingness to address very difficult questions and to clarity to important issues like budget, zoning, everything you have. You are one of the counselor which is not visibly attached with right wing or left wing. You just decide what is right, what do you think right on your analysis. So you vote. Like same in the last council. You are not directly attached with all the woke counselor like Kara, Walcott, or what the name of the another other counselor. But your voting was balanced, very balanced
Yeah.
to see
I vote
what
for
is
Ward
going.
2. Like the community is what drives me, and the conversations I have with Ward 2 residents is what shapes how I vote at council. And so I really
Yes.
appreciate those conversations because
So that
I
is.
always think about the impact of my vote on our community.
Yeah, yeah. For coming, what is better for us and what not to just follow the line of one group or another group. So that is very appreciated for appreciable for you. So thank you very much. If you have, so we can do it after few months when we have other motion to talk about or something. So our residents and other people will know about your views and why you are voting yes or why you voted no. So everything will be explained to them. Thank you
Awesome.
very much for joining us. Oh,
Thank
Lord.
you.
I know the time. That's why I just want to finish it within the time. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Have like happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you, to everyone. So
Okay.
this is actually vacation time for everyone. Okay. Thanks
Yeah.
a lot.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.